Hi guys, welcome back to another video. Today I wanted to create a piece of content that can update everyone with what we know about the Ahsoka series so far, as a lot has been coming out in recent times and it's possible some has been lost along the way. There are a few things that have come out as well that have divided sections of the fanbase, so I wanted to give my thoughts on that too. Without further delay, let's get into the video. Let's start off with the release date. August 23rd. Following suit with Disney's other Star Wars series, Ahsoka's 8 episodes, all written by Dave Filoni, will release on a weekly basis on Wednesdays. Ahsoka is the latest series, joining the likes of The Mandalorian and The Book of Boba Fett, all set around 5 or so years post Return of the Jedi. The main storyline appears to surround Ahsoka searching for Ezra and Grand Admiral Thrawn in the unknown regions, whilst being accompanied by members of the Ghost Crew in Hera Syndulla, Chopper, and Sabine Wren. The trailers we have received so far all give the impression that a threat is lurking, presumably Thrawn commanding an Imperial Shadow Council. Along her journey, it seems as though Ahsoka will encounter various enemies, such as Imperial Magistrate Morgan Elsbeth, who we've already met in Season 2 of The Mandalorian, the same episode that we were introduced to Rosario Dawson as our live-action Ahsoka. We'll also come along two new foes, Baylan Skoll and Shinhati. Now, whilst not much is known about Shin thus far, Ivana Sakno, who portrays her, has described the character as an intense and vicious force wielder, as well as very talented in lightsaber combat. In the most recent trailer, we can see her dueling Sabine Wren, who is using what appears to be Ezra's lightsaber. Baylan is a former Jedi, and an Order 66 survivor turned bounty hunter, which has caused a division amongst the fanbase, and I'll give my thoughts on it later in this video. In the initial trailer that released, we can see him involved in a battle with Ahsoka. An interesting aspect of both of these characters is that they wield orange lightsabers, and when the man himself, Dave Filoni, was questioned on it at Star Wars Celebration, he had this to say.
That they might not straight up be what you think they are.
Like I said earlier, we recently found out that Baylan was a former Jedi, so perhaps Shin was too, and this is what Dave was alluding to. There's still a lot of mystery surrounding the series, which has me incredibly hyped, and I cannot wait until it releases. Back on the topic of Baylan Skoll and his background, I wanted to touch on the hot topic of Order 66 briefly. I'm genuinely not sure why people are so outraged or even questioning the effectiveness of Order 66. Perhaps in some people's minds they see Order 66 as exclusively Anakin's massacre on the Jedi Temple, and are forgetting how many Jedi were scattered all over the galaxy. We also have to remember that the Great Jedi Purge lasted many years after the fall of the Order. It was the Inquisitor's sole purpose to track down the remaining survivors. To bring some numbers into it, according to Kanan, there are around 10,000 Jedi Knights defending the galaxy. The attack on the Jedi is estimated by many to be around 99% effective, with under 100 remaining. The only justification I can think of behind people's distaste at the number of survivors recently is perhaps the frequent rate at which they have been revealed. For a long time there had been no real hint at there being more survivors than we initially assumed. However, I'm happy with the facts and information we have that there could be up to 100 survivors out there in the galaxy. The survivors obviously weren't a great cause for concern to the Emperor either, as he didn't urge Vader to continue to search for Obi-Wan, one of the strongest Jedi in existence, at the end of the Kenobi series. A few scattered Jedi were of little interest to him, as his purpose was to crush the Order and leave them hopeless. These are just my thoughts on it. I'd love to hear what you guys think of it. I want to finish off the video just by talking about some of the rumoured possibilities in Ahsoka, as well as my own hopes for these and how they will eventuate. The first one I want to touch on is the World Between Worlds, as the design of the Ahsoka logo gives us the impression that it will play a role, to what extent though is unknown. Now, as I stated before, members of the Ghost Crew will play a significant role alongside Ahsoka. However, I didn't mention Zeb as he isn't shown in any trailer as of yet. I am super hopeful that we'll get to see him, as we've already seen him make his live action debut in Season 3 of The Mandalorian as a member of the New Republic, where he looks excellent in his transition from animation. Speaking of past Ghost Crew members and associates, a rumour that has been circulating for the last few weeks is Temuera Morrison making his live action debut as Rex. To say I'm stoked about this is an understatement, and I'm sure he is too. Judging by his recent comments about being left out of Season 3 of The Mandalorian, he'll make the most of the opportunity. Whether or not it'll be Rex in the present timeline or in flashback scenes, it will still be amazing to see Ahsoka and Rex reunited on our screens once again. Speaking of possible flashback scenes, Hayden Christensen is scheduled to reappear in the series as either Anakin or Vader, which will be the absolute highlight of the season for me. We could see Hayden in a variety of different forms, whether it be flashback scenes, a Force Ghost, or even an alternate timeline, where he fights Ahsoka on Mustafar instead of Obi-Wan, which has been rumoured and I covered in depth in my first video on this channel. A point I touched on earlier in the video is the possibility of Shinhati following in Baylan Skoll's footsteps of being a former Jedi. A couple small details have been noticed in the trailers and discussed amongst the fandom, with one being what appears to be a Padawan braid. This is a nice little detail that definitely points to the history of the Jedi. However, the larger discussion point has surrounded the lightsaber hilt Shin is seen using. It greatly resembles that of Kanan Jarrus. A brief history of the saber hilt is Governor Price retrieving it after Kanan sacrificed himself, before presenting it to Grand Admiral Thrawn by a hologram as proof of his death. However, Thrawn never stepped foot on Lothal again, and with the Imperial complex located there being destroyed, it was presumed the saber was too. Perhaps it had already somehow reached Thrawn. Now, if the likes of Baylan and Shin have been located in the unknown regions along with Thrawn, the hilt definitely could have reached the possession of Shinhati. The final discussion point I want to touch on in this video is what appears to be an Inquisitor who we can see Ahsoka battling in the trailers. An image was released last week as a preview to an Empire magazine interview, and the fanbase went rampant with theories as to who the identity of this mysterious villain could be. I'm super interested in the story of this Inquisitor, as I was under the impression they didn't exist in the New Hope and Beyond era. However, in my mind, there are technically four options as to whom it could be. There's definitely a chance it could be Ezra. Now, whether it is in the present timeline or an alternate timeline, I'm unsure. The storyline there could be he spent so much time with Thrawn in the unknown regions that he was actually able to be turned. Another option is the return of Barriss Offee. It's been 10 years since we have seen her appear in Star Wars, and her story was left unfinished, with her original death being removed, as Filoni had plans for Barriss. Perhaps this is what he has in mind. It's definitely intriguing for sure, with Ahsoka and Barriss' prior history making for a great duel. In saying this, the option I believe is the most likely is the boring one, unfortunately, with this Inquisitor having the same purpose as the Inquisitor in Tales of the Jedi, and that is to get slaughtered by Ahsoka. I'd like to mention as well that there were two more options discussed amongst a decent portion of the fanbase, being the 8th brother and Starkiller. If you look at the image we've gotten of the live-action Inquisitor, you'll notice they have human-like hands, whereas the 8th brother has 4 fingers, and is also presumed dead. To include Starkiller in canon, you would have to strip away what makes him so good and popular amongst the fanbase. Simply put, he's just too OP for canon. Although, if anyone was to do it, it'd be Dave Filoni. Thank you so much for watching, guys. As you can probably tell, I am super hyped for this series and cannot wait for it to release. Let me know what you're excited for and what your hopes and predictions are for the series. Until next time, may the Force be with you.